If you're working as a health, fitness, or a wellness professional and you have clients that are dealing with multiple chemical sensitivity, these folks can really be suffering in a big way. A lot of them can't even leave the house unless they're going to what's considered a scent-free environment, just because any of these fume type situations really affect them in a really big way. And even worse, a lot of them have their doctors tell them that this is not a real thing or it's just in your head. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand why some doctors think that. I'm going to help you understand the most common underlying causes and steps you can help these clients take to turn it around. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now remember, I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving you medical advice to give to your clients, but I'm going to share some studies here in the description below this video that we'll go over that can give some indications of what we can understand about this problem. It's okay if I stand in front of these, we'll put them up big so you don't need to see them when they're back there. But I had a chemical sensitivity like 20 years ago and I couldn't even walk down the cleaning aisle in the grocery store. It was a significant problem for me and I was able to correct that issue. So I'm going to help you understand what I've learned about this and been able to help other clients improve it as well. And a lot of the confusion starts from this just because the symptoms can really vary from person to person greatly, and it can be symptoms, like fatigue or headaches and things that you wouldn't think that would come from a chemical sensitivity, and that can create some confusion. And even bigger, we're going to look at this study on diagnostic markers of multiple chemical sensitivity, and they tell us that when they were looking to try to set up these markers that could really kind of help diagnose if somebody has this issue or not, they'll tell you that, look, when you run blood tests and, CBCs or even EKG on clients, a lot of these tests that a lot of doctors like to run in situations like this, with these folks, they normally come back just normal. And the doctor's like, well, look, everything's just fine. It's probably just in your head. Sorry about your luck. And this study here showed us that that's not the case, that the blood tests are going to come up normal, and that makes sense if you understand that the blood is a compensatory fluid and the body's going to beg, borrow, and steal from all these other systems to keep that blood chemistry in line. It's that important. So it makes sense that a person can be having trouble even if the blood looks okay. And when we look at this paper here on the prevalence of multiple chemical sensitivities, they did some studies in Atlanta and in California, and they found that like 12 to 15% of the population is dealing with this issue. So you can help clients understand that they're not alone, and it's not just in their head. And this is a real issue, and you'll hear it called other things like environmental illness or environmental intolerance or idiopathic environmental intolerance, which just means like, oh, we don't know what's causing it. I don't know, idiopathic, huh? So when we're trying to validate these clients, this paper here in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, Do No Harm, Multiple Chemical Sensitivity is Not Psychological, they let us know that this is not a psychosomatic thing. This is not like a fear that someone has. There's actual issues going on. And some people will tell you that this is an issue with adrenal fatigue, and I feel more like this is just seen together with this because when there are significant issues going on in the body will often call on the adrenals to help out, and when the adrenals are called on too often or for too long, they become fatigued and don't function as well. But I don't view this as being caused by the adrenal fatigue. Now, when you look at the advice that's available to these clients, they're being told that, hey, just stay away from this stuff. Don't go near these fumes that you're smelling or anywhere where people have perfume or, you can't really fill your own gas tank because that has fumes. That's going to bother you. So just stay away from all that. And when you look at the treatments out there, well, there's not really any type of medication for this. The only medication that patients are receiving are, well, here's a medication for the headaches that this problem is giving you or for the nausea that you feel because of this issue. There's no real medication or treatment for this issue. So when we want to help clients improve this scenario, we need to understand bodily overwhelm a little bit. So let's use this analogy here of this being the body, and the water in this jug is just toxins that can accumulate over time. And we have a lot of toxins in our environment now, and somebody could be getting it from the water that they drink, or sprays and cleaners in their house, or even sprays in their lawn or in their neighborhood, or even in their town, or even chemicals that are sprayed on the food that they're consuming. Someone could be dealing with some type of environmental issue in the house like mold, or maybe they have a heavy metal issue. Maybe they had some dental fillings that were the wrong kind of stuff that got heavy metals into the body. So there's all these variations of things that can come into the system. And when they come into the system, the body is made to get rid of them. So let's look at this spout as if this is where the body detoxes these chemicals and they'll come out the other end. So why this problem can happen with some people and not with others is because the reality is that some people will accumulate toxins faster because of some of the things that we'll talk about here in just a second. And some people have problems with their detox pathway. Some people, this little spigot here is kind of turned off, or it's barely just dripping at all, and yet they have issues that are accumulating toxins in a big way. So when this accumulation just fills the whole body and the whole body is toxic, now anything that they come in contact with can affect them immediately because the body is viewing this as a threat. So let's look here and see that we understand some of these chemical pollutants that we just talked about that a person could be exposed to, but we also need to understand that some clients will have biological factors going on, where they could have some type of invader or infection in the body or some type of overgrowth that's putting out all of these toxins in the body, so their exposure is coming from within their body. How are they going to run away from that? We also need to understand these detox pathways and things that can go wrong. So to do that, we need to understand digestion a little bit. And most people know that the liver filters junk out of the body, but not a lot of people know that the liver will take a lot of those toxins and put it into the bile that it makes. And bile is this soapy substance that is stored in the gallbladder and it's concentrated there, and then it comes down in the digestive tract to help us emulsify our dietary fats. It helps neutralize acids that are leaving the stomach. So it does a lot of things to help us digest our food correctly, but it also moves through the digestive tract carrying those toxins with it, so then those toxins can go out the back door when we poop like a champion. So the problem is it's very common today for someone to have their bile become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. When you hear about clients having gallstones, well, their bile wasn't flowing very well and the gallbladder just continued to concentrate it until it concentrated it into sludge or even stones. So this is a very common issue. And when bile is not flowing, now those toxins are not moving through the digestive tract. They're not going out the back door. And now the toxins get reabsorbed and the liver's got to filter them out all over again. And the liver's like, why are you giving me this again? I already filtered this out of here. And then the system becomes more and more toxic. So now these toxins are filling more and more. They're accumulating more quickly just because we can't get rid of them correctly. So if a client can't detox the way that the body wants to, that's going to be a real problem in this scenario. We also need to think about invaders that can come into the system. We need to think about mold illness. This is very common with this chemical sensitivity issue because when mold gets into the system, now they put out a lot of mycotoxins, and a lot of these mycotoxins have mechanisms that make it difficult for the body to get rid of them. So now they can accumulate even faster. So that's really common to see. We also need to think about digestive overgrowth issues that can happen either in the stomach or in the small intestine, like a SIBO issue, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And those bad guys are going to be putting out toxins as well. And what's interesting is that a lot of people get these overgrowth issues in the stomach and the small intestine just because they're not making enough stomach acid to really break their food down correctly. And when that's the case, bad guys that come in on the food that we're eating just come in and have a party. They're supposed to die in an acid bath in the stomach. But because so many people don't make enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons, they don't have the ability to wipe them out and we get these overgrowth issues. Also, if there's not acid coming down here into the duodenum, that's what triggers the gallbladder to squirt this bile down. So if the acid's not coming into the duodenum, then the gallbladder is not being called on. The bile continues to concentrate into that gallbladder and turns into that sludge situation. So there's a variety of digestive issues that can come about with these digestive overgrowth problems. And then even bigger is that can create issues where a client can start having food sensitivity issues, especially if there's some type of yeast, mold, or fungal type overgrowth. They have the ability to kind of bore holes in that intestinal lining and create a leaky gut type issue. And then these foods that are not broken down properly start to get into the bloodstream. The body views them as an invader. They start to make antibodies to that, and then those antibodies have to be detoxed when they're trying to attack all these food situations. So now we have even more things needing to be detoxed. So these immune malfunctions that can take place with these food sensitivity issues, now the client, like everything they eat, they're trying to eat healthy things, but the body's viewing that as an invader and creating other responses that just creates a whole snowball effect for the client. So you can see that some of these malfunctions or problems have the ability to magnify or even create some of these other problems. So some of these clients get into a real bad way. So when we're looking at ways to improve this situation for the client, the first thing that we need to do is remove the insult. Whether they have a mold in their environment, like in their home, but it could also colonize in the body. So they're kind of taking it wherever they go. Maybe if they have a heavy metal issue, they're going to need to do things to get rid of that issue and reduce that toxic load on the body. So as a professional, you might have to become a detective and help them figure this out. There's tests that they can do for invaders to figure out whether they have like mold mycotoxins or maybe an H. pylori infection or some type of SIBO or candida situation. So you might have to investigate that a little bit. But then the second big step becomes, is bile flowing correctly? And if it's not, we really need to take steps to thin that out. If that's not something you know how to do, my book, Health Pro Results, chapters 3 and 4 kind of teach you how to walk clients figuring out, is there aspects of digestion that are not working correctly? And if so, what steps can they take to improve that situation? And that helps you understand how to thin out the bile and such. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below where you can get the whole thing totally for free, and then you can just jump to chapters 3 and 4. And if you're a consumer that just happened upon this video because you like the topic, then I'll also put a link where you can get my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, for free. And chapters 3 and 4 of that go over the same kind of thing. That book is just more written for consumers, where the Health Pro Results book is really written for health professionals. But I'll put links to get either of those for free in the description below. The next step is we need to reduce any type of digestive overgrowth going on, so they're not putting out all these toxins all the time and allowing that to accumulate better. So when you can reduce this overgrowth and improve bile flow, well, now there's less toxins there, but also the body's detoxing more efficiently. It's detoxing the way that it wants to. So that can be really, really big. If a client has any digestive symptoms, we need to improve those. Those are signs that they're either not making enough stomach acid or bile is not flowing correctly. So we've already seen the trouble that either of those scenarios can create. So if they have any kind of leaky gut issue, we need to fix that so the body's not going to war against all these foods. And a client might need to even do like an elimination diet situation. If they're still working on improving all of this digestive stuff or any leaky gut issue, there are foods that are more likely to create these food sensitivity issues. So if a client can remove all of those, then all of a sudden they can feel and function a whole lot better, a whole lot quicker. So we'll put a link in the description below for a video over on our much bigger consumer channel for how to use elimination diets. If you want to check that out, that book I told you how to get for free, that also explains how to do that with your clients as well. So you can see that we really got to become a detective with our clients and help them figure out what's actually creating it. There's a variety of things that can do this, but if you can do these steps, you're going to be able to improve a lot of scenarios and help their body just start getting rid of this junk and reducing the speed at which it's accumulating in the system. So since this bile flow is such a big part of helping the body detox the way that it's supposed to, you can jump over right now and check out our video on 5 steps to help clients improve bile flow. I can't wait to hear about your results.